What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Trust the Bank podcast on YouTube as TTB Ravens Media. You see, I got Joshua beside me. And for the next 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesdays, the videos will all be these segments from this podcast episode. But if you want to jump ahead, hear what we're talking about, go check out the podcast platforms, Trust the Bank on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But if you're watching on TTB Ravens Media, subscribe for daily Ravens content. What we're going to be going over, today and in the other segments, we'll be going over Jaylon Ferguson, aka Sack Daddy. We'll be going over kind of the wide receivers and kind of our roster predictions, how the depth chart will shape out. And then we're going to be talking about the defense and, with how it's going to be run. Will this be the traditional type of front seven, stout, run game stopping defense, or is it going to be kind of what we've been more recently in terms of the secondary kind of bearing the load of the defense to help out the front seven? So we'll get into all those topics, but starting off, we got to talk about Jaylon Ferguson, third round pick just a couple of years ago. And, he was the NCAA all-time leader in sacks, breaking the great Terrell Suggs' record. And I think a lot of Ravens fans, we all had high hopes for him. If your nickname is Sack Daddy, we want you to produce sacks. He came in, he has 4.5 sacks in his career. And we've drafted, we drafted Odafe Away, we drafted Dalen Hayes, we have Pernell McPhee, we have Tyus Bowser, and there's, a lot of Ravens fans still think that we'll be signing a veteran edge rusher. So, Joshua, I'll ask you this. Have the Ravens, do you think, kind of given up on Sack Daddy at all?
I want to say giving up on him. I definitely see it as, if you're not going to get the job done, then the next man up. I mean, the Ravens way is definitely about playing the next man up. If you can't get the job done, we're going to put somebody else to replace you. The good thing about it is Sack Daddy is 25. Usually with some of our edge rushers, they don't start really showing out until, it's time for them to be in their prime. I mean, look at Darius Smith. He finally got his big pay. Matthew Judon, only reason he got his big pay because our secondary got more cover sacks. But hey, he did what he had to do, and New England paid the man. So I definitely don't see it as a threat or a wake up call. I definitely see it as, hey man, we're not about to get rid of you. We just want to put some more competition out here, and we want to, be that stout defense that we was before. Now, if they were to bring in a more veteran technician type of defensive end, then we could possibly see his playing time dwindle. I'm more if it's a Ryan Kerrigan, maybe like an Everson Griffith style of player. I can see his playing time dwindling. But if he was to bring in Justin Houston, I can still see him being in a rotation.
Interesting. So for me, it's sad to say, I do think the Ravens actually have given up on Jaylon Ferguson, which, like I said, I don't want to say that. I really haven't given up on him, but the way that they've gone about it and, he's come in and he's never really been, an edge rusher really. And, for us, what he's been okay. He is an edge rusher, but he's not getting sacks, but he does do a good job. I'll give him his props. Man, he's got the same problem as Matthew Judon. He's good at stopping the run. He has, I got to look at the stat real quick, but he's got,
he has one more,
6 and 7 tackles for loss in the last 2 years, which is more than a guy like Pernell McPhee. So Pernell McPhee, I think is probably better at getting to the passer. However, Jaylon Ferguson, I think is good in stopping the run, which, for the Ravens, traditionally, recently with the edge rushers they've had, Yannick Ngakoue, not a guy that, was known to stop the run. He was just an edge rusher, a sack producer, I'll say, instead of edge rusher. Whereas Matthew Judon, good at stopping the run. But now we've brought in Odafe Away, who is phenomenal at stopping the run. And that's something that I think is going to limit, Sack Daddy's, production even more, because we won't really need him to try and stop the run, because we'll have those guys on the outside already. And then, if we want to sub in a guy that we think, oh, this guy, we need a sack right here, I do not think that the Ravens are going to look at Jaylon Ferguson and say, all right, we need a sack. You're going onto the field. I think what they're going to do is they'll probably send Pernell McPhee, or, if they go out and sign a guy, they'll put in a Ryan Kerrigan, a Melvin Ingram, a Justin Houston to try and get after the pass rusher. And that's really sad to me because, I think we all had such high hopes for him, but like they haven't really panned out. And, we've talked about it before in terms of the Ravens developing talent. Obviously, he showed he could do it in college at Louisiana Tech, but the issue is that's a smaller school. Terrell Suggs, when he broke that sack record, he was doing it at Arizona State back in the Pac-10, is what it was back then. So, you're playing at a bigger school, against better competition, and you're still producing sacks, but he was out at Louisiana Tech. What are some other Ravens that have, broken the all-time records at smaller schools? Well, we look at Kenneth Dixon, who broke the, touchdown record, and we drafted him, and it was like, oh, he could turn into something really good. And he didn't really pan out. Look at a guy like even Keenan Reynolds, who went toe-to-toe with Kenneth Dixon for the all-time touchdown record in NCAA, and he went to Navy. He was a quarterback. He tried to transition to wide receiver, punt returner, that type of thing, which is obviously more difficult. He was like it was a 6th or a 7th round pick. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
But like when we're going for guys that set all-time records, maybe the Ravens need to stop going for the record set by players at small-time schools, because it's very unfortunate, but like one hasn't turned out well. And that's very unfortunate. But for me, I think the Ravens have kind of given up on him. If they don't end up signing an edge rusher, then, I will say I don't think that they've given up on him. But I do think that they will sign an edge rusher. So, they've brought in Justin Houston already. I know that they said they had planned to bring in other people. I haven't heard anything since those reports. So maybe, but we've got a couple of months before the season starts. So there's a chance that we end up bringing somebody in, but very unfortunate. But I just don't think that they're, riding with Jaylon Ferguson anymore, which is kind of sad. But now here's the other question. What should they do with Jaylon Ferguson? Not like what the Ravens, believe in him, but like what should they do? Is it time to like let him go? Is it time, or should they just play him a lot? Like what do you think they should do, Joshua?
Well, one thing we can say about Jaylon Ferguson, he has one move. That's the bull rush. And the times that we have seen him get in the game, he has been getting washed, especially in the past. I mean, in the passing game. So, I mean, we can definitely clearly see that. When I watch the football games, I don't try to critique, but I do try to look for, those little things. I mean, there's many a times where, even though, yes, Patrick Queen got snubbed for rookie defensive player of the year, there was many times where he, just off of pure athleticism, just busting the hole up and missing the play. There was a couple times I seen him got knocked on his ass too, but that's going to happen. He's a rookie. But back to Jaylon Ferguson, if he has to put more into his arsenal. I mean, it's like the old saying: you don't go to a gunfight with a knife, and his bull rush is just his knife. He has to show he can he can spin off a defensive. He can spin off a tackle. He can show that he can chop down the blocks and things of that nature. He has to show that he can do more containment. We know that you finally start getting your feet wet, and we know that you can stuff the run. I mean, you started showing that. You started showing glimpses of that. But we need you to be more consistent, because honestly, we don't have the time of the essence. I'm going to keep on saying it. We are on the run for a Super Bowl, and we are at this. We're at go mode right now. Everything's green light, no brakes, all gas. And I'm not going to say we don't have the time to develop this young man, but it's like he's been here for 2-3 years, and usually in the 2 to 3rd year with defensive ends with the Ravens, you see more production. Right now, you're not really
Not seeing it.
seeing it as much as we
Yeah.
want to. I mean, it's hard because you had so much promise for this young man. You see him, you see the highlights. Oh, you know, he set the sack record, everything. You know, I mean, granted, you can find those diamond in the rough from little schools, but us as a team, we don't develop those diamond in the roughs as we should. We
Yeah.
we don't. I mean, because Judon, he came from I think D3 or JUCO, one of those Grand
Yeah.
Valley State,
Judon
something
was
like
from a
that.
small school, if I can remember
Just like
correctly.
Grand Valley State, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, he's had the glimpses and stuff like that, but I mean, for the money that he requested, he he's not a Ravens defensive end. If y'all know what I'm talking about, as far as Ravens defensive end, I'm talking Paul Krugers, I'm talking Terrell Suggs, I'm talking Jared Johnson's, Ed Hartwell's, Peter Bolwell, excuse me, Mike McClary. I think I said his name wrong, but forgive me. But those type of guys, when you see those type of guys, when you hear those guys' names, like, oh shit, now we gotta play against him. Elvis Dumerville. You know,
Yep.
left tackles, right tackles, like, oh man, we got to play against that Ravens defense. They got Terrell Suggs, man. They got Elvis Dumerville on the other side.
We know Big Ben was scared every time he went against the Ravens because he knew Terrell Suggs was coming off the edge. It's something that Judon never really brought us. I don't think there was any quarterback that was like, man, we got to go against Judon.
Yeah.
But a couple of things you said. One, Ravens fans may get mad at me. Patrick Queen should not have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Should not have been in the running whatsoever. I don't think that at all. Sorry, Ravens fans. I'm trying to be a realist. Patrick Quinn was not the Defensive Rookie of the Year. But the other thing they talked about, he's got one go-to move. It's the bull rush. That's one of those things when you're looking at a guy out of a very small school. If their move is the bull rush in college, it will not work in the NFL. There is one player to ever be able to consistently bull rush people. His name is Reggie White. Lawrence Taylor said he was the greatest pass rusher of all time. If y'all don't know about Reggie White was the man. Like, Reggie White may be the greatest defensive player to ever play the game of football. Absolute monster. My uncle's a high school football coach, and he told me, and he was like, yeah, I hate when my players would go out and they'd all try and bull rush people. He's like, why are you trying to bull rush? He's like, well, Reggie White can do it. He's like, yeah, well, you're not Reggie White.
Right.
You're not playing on Sundays. Like,
right.
The bull rush works when you are the biggest and strongest player on the field. And it works when you're playing at a small school in college. But when you come to the NFL and you start going against those Orlando Brown tackles, the 6'8", 320-pound guys, you are no longer able to do that. And he has not developed another move. He doesn't have any sort, he can't pull off a spin or he can't pull off a rip or anything like that. He tries to bull rush and it doesn't work because he's really not strong enough. And I don't think he ever will be, because if you look at the history of the game, only one guy's ever been strong enough to pull it off consistently. Other guys, they can do it every once in a while. We've seen guys like, Khalil Mack do it, but Khalil Mack's got other moves to go to. But when the bull rush is coming as if you're Alejandro Villanueva, who's 6'9", 320 pounds, you're anchoring that body and you're not getting moved off your spot. So it's kind of unfortunate, but it seems like, we haven't been able to develop him. So in my opinion, what we should do, we should let him go. And I hate to say that. Like I said, I'm rooting for him, but he is not doing what we need him to do, which is get to the, now we got guys that can stop the run. Guys like Malik Harrison can stop the run. Guys like Tyus Bowser can stop the run. Odafe Away was the third highest graded edge rusher in college football last year at stopping the run. So stopping the run is not the thing that we need. And that's all that Jaylon Ferguson brings to us. So, maybe we got to change his nickname. Maybe it's like Run Stop Daddy or something like that, because Sack Daddy is not working anymore.
And let's think about it. How many teams are we going to play this upcoming season that's really going to utilize their run, other than Cleveland and possibly Pittsburgh? Everybody else is a pass-heavy, team. So we definitely had to get back to, getting that pressure from the front seven. So
yeah. He is not going to help us beat the Chiefs. He's not going to help us beat the Bills. He's not going to help us. He's not even going to help us beat the Bengals. He's not going to help us beat most teams. He can help against Cleveland. He can help against Tennessee, but those are really it. And that's something that's a bit concerning. Like, we need guys that can help us beat the big dogs. Because we got enough ballers on our defense to be able to go out and beat. I'll say we can beat the Browns. We did it twice last year. We can beat the Bengals. We can beat these passing, the run heavy teams even. So overall, it's not something that I'm really worried about. So for me, moving on from him, it's kind of necessary now, which I wish, we could keep him. I hope he succeeds. I want him to prove me wrong, but I feel like that's pretty good for talking about Jaylon Ferguson. Thank you all for watching this segment. Subscribe to Daily Ravens content, all that stuff.